This week on Sprague Homestead, we're making Crockpot granola, one of our Homestead favorites.
Okay, so the first step in making homemade granola is to gather your ingredients. So we have a bowl with some oats, nuts, coconut, and of course our crock pot. So I've had the crock pot on for a few minutes, getting it nice and warm, because the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to coat the inside with an oil. So I'm using extremely hard coconut oil. Just a spoonful in there, let it sit for just a minute because the crock pot's nice and hot. And then what we're going to do is we're going to coat the inside of the bowl with the coconut oil, and that's going to keep all of our oats and everything from burning. And you can't see it, but it is getting all melty in there. So just take a paper towel or whatever you want to use and just coat the inside of it. If you've got a little too much, that's fine. You can just leave it in there to melt. It certainly isn't going to hurt anything. And I got a little too much in there. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put our oats in. So for this size crock pot, and I have no idea what size crock pot this is, my recipe is for 10 cups of old-fashioned oats. So we've got that in there, so we're going to put that in first. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to put in some coconut, because what good granola doesn't have coconut. This is 2 cups, and I use both the big heavy shaved and then the smaller coconut, and that's all going to be the unsweetened kind, so we'll dump that in. And then I like to put my nuts in early. That gives them a chance to kind of crisp up. So we've got half a cup of chopped pecans, and we've got half a cup of slivered almonds. And then from there, I like to use half a cup of raw pumpkin seed, 3 tablespoons of flax seed, and then I've got about a 1/4 cup of raw sunflower seeds. So that's going to go in there as well. And then we're going to go ahead and stir that together just so it's all pretty good and mixed in. Doesn't have to be perfect. You're going to do a lot of stirring with this as we go. Alright, so you can kind of see that that is all nice, good, and mixed. Okay, so once all of our dry ingredients are mixed in, now it's time for the sugars and the fats. So what I use is a full stick of unsalted butter, about a cup of honey, a little agave nectar, and then I like to put some raw sugar in there. So then what you're going to do is you'll put it in the stovetop and get it all nice and melted together, which you can't really see that. And then it just goes right on top of everything in the crock pot, and then just mix it all together until everything is nice and coated. And what tends to happen is all the buttery mixture gets all the way to the bottom, so really make sure that you're getting into it, because if you don't, you'll get kind of a weird scummy layer that kind of burns onto the bottom, and you don't want that. Okay, so now that you've got everything nice and coated, you're going to make sure your crock pot's on high. This whole process, depending on the heat of your crock pot, is going to take somewhere between 2 and 2.5 hours. So what you're going to do is you're going to let it sit in there and cook. About every 15 minutes we're going to come back and we're going to stir it. This is going to keep everything from burning to the crock pot. To trap the heat in, we're going to put on our lid, but we're not going to put on our lid tightly, because otherwise you get granola that kind of turns to goo, and it doesn't really do what it's supposed to do. So I leave mine cracked just about an inch or so. You're still going to build up the heat that you need to cook, but you're not going to trap the humidity in. So in about 15 minutes we'll come back and give it another stir. Okay, so I've actually stirred this a couple of times, but about every 15 minutes you want to go through and check it and give it a good stir. So you just make sure that you are stirring all the way to the bottom to try and get everything up, which can be a little challenging, especially if you've got a big crock pot like mine and it's pretty full. You'll know that you are getting there because the coconut will start to turn brown. It's some of the first things that actually kind of start getting that golden hue. So this is getting pretty close. We're going to give it another 15 minutes, and we'll stir it again, and we'll see how things are coming out. Okay, so we're about done with the granola. So one of the last steps that I do is put the fruit in, if you don't like fruit. and you're happy with the golden color that you've achieved, you can go ahead and unplug your crock pot and be done. We like a lot of fruit, so what I use is about 3 cups, and it's a mix of currants and cranberries, raisins, and apricots, and there are some blueberries in there as well. So I just go ahead and dump the whole thing in there, get it all in, mix it all in. The reason why you don't put the fruit in too early is it tends to get really dry if you put it in the beginning. And it also kind of gets in the way, so you don't get the golden color that you want with the oats. If you don't get your oats to caramelize and cook up and toast a little bit, then what tends to happen is they get really mushy when you put milk on them. So I'm going to get all this stirred in, and then we'll probably go ahead, because I'm kind of happy with the color, we'll just go ahead and unplug the crock pot and let it cool down.
Okay, so once everything is cooled in the crock pot, you can then just put it in bags like this. This is how we store ours. So this is what it's going to be. It's going to be a gallon Ziploc bag. You can just put this right in the fridge. And then it makes approximately 2 of these, and this will last for 2 adults, approximately 3 weeks for you. Just add milk, and it's delicious. That's it for this time on Sprague River Homestead. We'll see you next time.